Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community, and I'm going to address a video that Sean did, and maybe it'll boost the views of his video, because I thought it was a good video, and I'm surprised he only got like 4,000 views on it, so mine will probably get more, and then people will go watch his, and it'll be a good thing. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now, you guys know I honestly hate and can't stand most of the people in the fitness industry, right? And that includes probably 80% of fitness YouTubers. I don't have much nice to say about a lot of them. Sean's one of those guys that I discovered a little while back, and I actually like what the guy's doing. I don't have any criticism of him. I don't have any criticism of him other than what, maybe he's too physique oriented and I prefer athletic stuff and strength and performance. But you know what? Body composition matters tremendously for those things, doesn't it? So I can't necessarily knock the concept of body composition and hypertrophy training and all that in there. So that being said, I can't necessarily knock that in, although I did have someone say that he said that the strict standing press or just the press is overrated. That we might fight over. That might be a beef right there, Sean. We might disagree on that one because I think it is one of the greatest lifts of all time. Everybody should do it, done correctly. But no, he did a video on flexible dieting and if it fits your macros, and I have my own stance on it, and I think he raised some good points. And as you guys know, I have to approach something like that carefully. I'm an insane overeater. I'm one of those guys who has no problem bulking to 240, 250, eating a completely bro diet, right? I can eat clean 24/7 and I can bulk to 250 pounds without any problems. Right? All I just do is eat till I'm full. If I just get up and eat, the second I get out of bed, eat through the day, and eat and go to bed full, chicken, broccoli, brown rice, I can bulk to 250. Not a problem. And it's not because of a slow metabolism. I'm one of these guys that has a really high energy turnover. Like you guys know, I've done a 40 pounds into my cut so far this year with DEXA scans and everything. I've only eaten less than 3,000 calories, maybe 5 days in that entire time. Right, for me, my normal diet for having lost the last 40 pounds is 3,000, 3,500 calories in that range, right? That's generally what I eat day in, day out. And I actually have taken a couple diet breaks in there because I've been doing it long term. This has been almost a year-long project. I think I'm like, 8 months into that cut. I'm going to do another 20 pounds. I'm at 215 right now. Because I've gone from fat power lifter to less fat power lifter. But yeah, I do need to get down to about 10, 11% body fat. I think that'll be ideal. So that's where I'm going to move towards. But I have an insane appetite. So I'm glad that he brought up the interesting points of that. Because what you see a lot of times, the guys who get the most out of the whole flexible dieting thing are the skinny undereaters, the hard gainers. Those guys can cut on Pop-Tarts and ice cream. They're just like, oh yeah, man, I just have my chicken breast, a little broccoli, and fill the rest of my calories with Pop-Tarts and ice cream. And those guys do fine. That's not going to work for the rest of us. And it's not because the foods, the calories in, calories out model doesn't work, because it does work. It's true. The problem is that the appetite in, dietary deficiencies, everything else. And I'm glad that he brought that up, that for a lot of people, when they focus on that too much, they start to run into adherence issues. And so he usually tells people, eat 80 to 90% clean foods, 10 to 20% your favorite foods, unless they become an issue and become trigger foods and things, or you have problems with food volume. And that's what he pointed out, that food volume is one of the biggest issues. I find this to be true personally. I agree with him, and I think that people who are coming over for cutting advice, people who need help with their fat loss end of dieting, is a lot of what he's talking about with the calorie deficit. Those are going to be people like me, people like us, those of us who do struggle with overeating. We have voracious appetites. Bulking is easy. We have no problem getting big and strong, right? We have no problem getting big and strong. This is not an issue. Cutting can be tough because we like to eat. We're foodies. And I agree with that. The low food volume is really a problem. I mean, even for me, if I have times where I say I only want to eat 3,000 calories, if I'm going to have a 3,000 calorie day, I'm going to have to intermittent fast and eat 100% unprocessed foods. I'm going to eat nothing but single ingredient foods to only eat 3,000 calories. That's just not going to happen. I don't have wiggle room for treats. I don't have it. So what I do most days myself, that's generally what I have to do. It has to be all clean foods. It has to be filling foods. And I don't even follow set macros per se. Like for me, what I do these days, I try to eat at least 200 grams of protein, at least 50 grams of fat, and then I fill my remaining calories, because again, 3,000 to 3,500 calories, I fill the remaining with just whole foods, whatever I want to eat that day. Some days I might fill all of it with potatoes, all of it. Other days I might fill all of it with natural peanut butter, everything other than those basic numbers I hit. So it might be mostly carbs, might be mostly fat. It's just going to depend on what mood I'm in that week. Or I might fill it with a bunch of stews and I like to do a lot of times like a beef and potato stew in the crock pot and things like that. And what I have found though is that you can get away with the flexibility like he's talking about there. But for me, that sort of thing doesn't work if I'm going to eat all day long. I'm one of those people that he's talking about. I think it's fantastic he's addressing that, the food volume issue. Because I think that's where people mess up on it, right? That's where they mess up. Because again, I can get away with that on certain times, like in social settings, social gathering, dates, things like that. Yes, I can get away with it if I go into the evening with 1,500 calories left. And that's oftentimes my strategy. I will save myself 1,500 to 1,800 calories if I'm going to be in a social setting. That way I can go out and eat if I want to. And I'm not worried that the thing on the menu is 1,500 calories and then I have a beer or a glass of wine with it, right? I'm good, I'm fine. I'll hit 1,700 calories roughly and I'll be okay, but that's late in the evening and that's going to be fattier foods because you might be eating like a Philly cheesesteak burger with tater tots and a pint of Guinness with it, you know. So if you're going to do something like that, it tends to be late in the evening, and that works okay also because then you have all that fatty food in your system going to bed. You're still maintaining your calorie deficit because you ate nothing but chicken and vegetables earlier in the day for 1,500 calories. So you can get away with it in the right environment, but he's absolutely right. For a lot of us, it's food volume, and I hate that all these other people, they come up, and it's guys like Junkie Ward, talks about pixie sticks or whatever the hell. Do they even make those anymore? He talks about pixie sticks, saying, well, you can't claim it's the same because of insulin response. No, it's the food volume. That's not what it is, guys. That's why people struggle on junk food diets for cutting. It's not because it's junk food and the insulin response and all this other silly nonsense. It's the food volume issue. And he addresses that perfectly. There might be, if you were to get those same calories from a bunch of potatoes or brown rice or whatever, what's going to happen? You're going to have 5, 6, 7 times as much food volume. It's going to fill your stomach up more than eating a bunch of candy or cinnamon rolls or whatever it is that you're eating. So he's absolutely right. The food volume is a big issue. Also, the issue of enough micronutrients. Like for me, that is something I do monitor and look at through the day. I'm a hard training athlete. People can argue about that all day long. No, you're not. It's like, all right, you live what I live day in, day out. You guys who want to claim otherwise, you go do my workouts with my weights for my ranges of motion, calibrated plates, and come back and tell me that it's not hard. I promise you 95% of you can't do it. You can't do it. So, that being said, for me, things like the magnesium, potassium, all those things, I don't supplement. I don't like supplements. I don't support supplementing. I get my stuff from food, and so that's also a problem. When the refined food goes too high, you can run into problems with that. You might not be getting enough magnesium. You might not be getting enough potassium, these other things. And those are things that I look at closely. For me, electrolytes are a big deal. The 4 things that I absolutely make sure that I'm always getting enough of, vitamins and everything are one thing. When it comes to performance, it comes to retaining muscle when you're cutting, muscle hydration, all these things, you have to have your magnesium, potassium, calcium, sodium. I go over the RDA on all 4 of those every single day. And I find foods to make that happen, even when cutting. It's necessary. I find it affects my performance if I don't. So he's got the point there also. It can be harder to hit your micronutrients and all the nutrient density that you need if you're not careful. And I like the fact that he discussed the trigger foods, and he's right. Those of us who are foodies, those of us who are chronic overeaters, we all have foods that make us hungry. That if we eat 1,000 calories of that food, it doesn't fill us up, it makes us want to eat more, right? For me, it's pizza. It's pizza, and it's partially because of the cheese. We can talk about casomorphins combined with the sauce and the garlic and everything else. All these flavor enhancers combined with the casomorphines, right? And that high nutrient or high caloric density food is hyper palatable, calorically dense, and for me that's a trigger food. So when he talks about that there are just foods that you cannot eat and maintain a caloric deficit, for some people you have to avoid those also. You're not going to be able to do flexible dieting with those. He's absolutely right. Mine is pizza. Man, I could eat 4,000 calories of pizza in one sitting without batting an eyelid. Now that is over my deficit calories. There's no way I can do a deficit and break my fast on pizza. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to ruin my entire day. I'm going to end up having a 5,000 calorie day if I do that. And I know that from past experience. So I also appreciate the fact that Sean brought that up. So all in all, guys, I'm going to say good video. Sean's one of these guys. I like what he's doing. I don't have a lot negative to say about it. He's one of the seems to be, from what I can tell, one of the good guys here in the industry, and they are few and far between. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.